Hi and welcome to the Making My Mark panel. I am so grateful to have got the opportunity to moderate such a brilliant panel full of successful women in different areas of the maritime industry. Today we will discuss the panel members' professional careers, achievements, but also challenges and how they overcame them to make their mark. But before we start, I would like to ask the panel members to introduce themselves and also answer the question what they hope to get out of the discussion today. We can maybe start with Jacqueline. Please introduce yourself and tell us what your thoughts are about our discussion today.
Yeah, so my name's Jacqueline Burton. I'm the head of creative design at Kongsberg Maritime. Previously, I was at sea for 13 years working on board ships. I'm licensed as a captain of unlimited tonnage. And I'm looking forward to getting to know the other panelists through the discussion today and hearing more about their thoughts and their careers.
That's great. Maybe Fabiana could go next.
Okay, my background is not so interesting as Jacqueline. I'm very boring because I'm a lawyer. So I'm a shipping lawyer from Brazil. I'm partner of SMA. We work for P&Is and owners for about 25 years now.
Okay, what do you hope to get out of this discussion today, Fabiana?
I think, John, that the most interesting part of the Maritime SheEO is to have people from all over the globe together. So I really expect that we'll have a very unique vision of how women are making the mark in the globe. We have different backgrounds, you are in a different place. I'm very excited today.
Yes, I am too. Okay, Amsha, could you go next?
Yes, my name is Amsha Gengan, and I am from the east coast of South Africa. I am a maritime advocate, so like Fabiana, the law is the background. I currently practice as an advocate at the Pan-African Bar Association of South Africa, based in Johannesburg. I'm a mom to 2 teenage boys, so that's quite as challenging as my day job. And for me, I hope to learn the shared experiences. I think we come from different parts of the globe, but the journey of any woman in the maritime industry has commonalities that will surely resonate with each other. And I also hope that the shared experiences of this panel will serve as a guiding or a North Star to young women that are entering into the profession, especially into a workplace in a post-COVID world.
Yeah, that's a great point. Maybe Carolina, could you go next?
Yes, good morning to everybody. I'm Carolina Villa from Italy. I'm a ship and yacht agent. I'm a mom of 2 teenagers, and I'm here to know the point of view of this important professionals in the sector and share our vision to leave a better world to the younger generations, the next generation. Thank you.
Thank you. And Bissar?
Hello, I'm Bissar Sleiman from Lebanon. I own a marine consultancy services and brokerage company called Tia Marine, and I'm a livestock vessel owner and trader. I'm also WISTA Lebanon's founder and president. We are a new national WISTA association. And as you can see, I am in 2 industries that are very heavily male dominated, the livestock and the shipping industry. So yes, I'm breaking some stereotypes, and I'm more than happy to share my story with all of you. As for my aim for partaking in this lovely conference. I guess it's to share, firstly, to share my story and to hear other stories and to meet other like-minded women, to raise awareness and hopefully to inspire some people to make a change.
I am sure you will inspire a lot of people out there listening to this. Last but not least,
Hi, morning everyone. So my name is Zoe Upson. I'm the owner of FACT, which is Freight and Commodity Talent. I was a broker, a freight derivatives broker for a decade, over a decade. So very much from the commercial side of shipping. And now the founder of Women Together, which is a group for women to come together. It's fun, dynamic. You know, we meet and just basically empower one another and network. From this discussion today with the panel sharing their stories, I just really hope that we can inspire and empower other women to speak their truth, to make their own mark, and inspire women to join the shipping industry, or if they're already in the industry, to strive to be in senior roles, because I always feel that when you're in a senior role, you can facilitate change. And that's what I'm hoping for today.
Thank you very much for your introduction and expectation, ladies. We shall really try to meet them moving on with the discussion. I would really be interested in digging a bit deeper into your personal story on your way to where you are today. We could maybe start with Amsha. As an advocate of the High Court of South Africa, I think you need to have great skills to reach that far. Can you tell your story and tell us a little bit about the goals you reached on your way?
Oh, thanks, Johanna. So I discovered my passion for the law at a very young age. I think by the time I turned 12, I knew I wanted to be a lawyer. And after high school, I had a few holiday jobs at quite small law firms, and I decided this was my calling. There was no plan to become a shipping lawyer. That happened totally by coincidence. So the east coast of South Africa is quite a beautiful place in the world, lovely natural coastline. And I had the privilege of studying at one of the universities that overlooked the port of Durban, a very busy and bustling port in Africa. And the Institute of Maritime Law used to be just behind those steps where the law students used to hang out for lunch. And the one day, a few of us decided to work up the courage and ask the prof, what was this all about? That conversation led to 4 of us doing an elective in maritime law for a semester. And it ultimately led to me embarking on my master's in maritime law the following year. I commenced practice at the bar in Durban at the age of 26. No mean feat, I tell you. I practiced until I relocated 5 years later. I then decided to join the corporate sector, landing at a major telecoms company. And I've worked for 2 of the largest banks in South Africa, heading up their legal divisions across their subsidiaries across the continent. One would think it was the waste of my shipping law experience, but not at all. And it was especially important, and it came into play when the first Somalian pirates struck off the coast of Kenya. Motherhood, a husband completing his MBA were some of the reasons that anchored me to the corporate sector, and it kept me there for a cumulative 17 years. Well, that is until 2019, when corporate politics and a parent's diagnosis with a terminal illness had me stop. Yes, this was a complete stop in my career. It was not a pause to ruminate about my choices. After a week with my coach at Oxford University's Said Business School, having really difficult conversations about what success means, what is integrity, what is values, and how to remain authentic, I concluded that I had outgrown the corporate life. My paradigm had simply shifted at 46 years of age. I had 12 months of a career break, 8 of which was spent helping my parents recover, and the remaining 4 spent asking myself, where to next and how do I get there? Now, the reason that I'm sharing this is to share my learnings that success is not linear. Obstacles will arise, but do not let them define you. The lens that you use to overcome them is what determines how you move forward and how you rise. As a young Indian woman at the bar 20 years ago, armed with a master's in shipping law and a determined desire to succeed, I can assure you that the challenges I faced were varied, from meeting an old boys club who thought I simply could not be serious, wanting to practice shipping law, to a direct refusal for people to share their knowledge or to teach. This experience crushed the spirit of a 26-year-old advocate to the bar, but my learnings at the age of 47 now is that it is this very experience that fuels my passion and fuels my desire at the bar right now. So the answer to my question about where to next was very simple. Go back to the beginning, but this time do it differently. Do it by leveraging off 20 years of corporate experience. I'm back at the bar, loving what I do, helping others whilst I do it, and all with my first love of shipping law as a part of my practice and a part of my life. My career goals are really simple, Johanna. Build the best shipping practice that I can, befitting as to belong to a woman, one of the first few women of color who had a master's in this area of specialization, mentor young women, drive the diversity and change in the shipping law sector in South Africa, give my time to the cause of seafarers, which is close to my heart, and help those women around me. I believe that women do powerful things when they help each other. And I am currently the product of what happens when women lift other women. So that really, Johanna, in a nutshell, is my career story to where I am, my goals for the future. And it really is a journey of coming full circle, but taking all of the experiences, the celebrations, the failures, and redefining it for the future.
Thank you, Amsha. That was a really great story, and also about how you can fuel yourself by meeting a big obstacle. Have to stop and reflect what you are doing. I think that is a main source of building that fuel to really move forward. It's really great.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Pleasure.
Yeah, okay. Carolina, with skills in entrepreneurship and negotiation, I think you can overcome most struggles to reach your goals. Can you please elaborate a little bit about what that on your way to managing director?
Yes, thank you for asking. I entered in the maritime sector when I was 24 years old as a founder and managing director of my company. Initially, it was stimulating being one of the very few Italian women in the maritime sector. However, I soon discovered that it was challenging to balance out my private life with my professional life. Thanks to the fact that I had the support of my family in order to manage my household, I consider myself a privileged individual as I was able to organize my work schedule. At the same time, in order to be recognized and validated by my male business partners, I felt I had to do more in order to overcome the limits imposed by this sector. This is due to the fact that women in general are constantly struggling with their identity between choosing a satisfying career or have a family, being a wife and a mother. Speaking from my own personal experience, being a single mother of two teenagers, I have been very fortunate for my family support. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for me to pursue my career path. I've come to the conclusion that the majority of Italian women do not have the advantage that I had. And for this reason, I would like to make my mark. Thanks to being part of WISTA, where I had the great opportunity to meet and be exposed to women from different cultures who share my struggles as well as dreams, I proposed that the board of Assagenti, the local ship agents and broker association here in Genoa, Italy, to create an empowerment committee. My objective with this committee is to create a group of men and women from different company members in order to work together to share the vision of reaching gender equity. This is my point of view.
Yeah, I think it's great that both you, Carolina, and Amsha is describing this network of women working together to reach their goals. I think it's really important to have that kind of support and network.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I will now move on to Bissar. Could you please tell a little about your journey to CEO? What kind of struggles did you meet on the way?
Johanna, thank you, first of all, for running the panel, and Senjam for organizing this conference again. I'm honored to be surrounded by such strong and determined, beautiful women. Really, it's a pleasure to be speaking here for the second time. I'm going to give a bit of a background about my professional career. I did come from a privileged background, but that doesn't undermine the challenges that I've been through. So how did I enter the maritime world? My answer is it's no coincidence. Coming from two cultures that have an exceptional love of the sea and are both known to be outstanding sailors, the Greeks and the Phoenicians, I'm proud to say that shipping is in my blood. So I began by working at the age of 17 in our family business, a third generation livestock shipping company in Lebanon. And after 15 years of working in the company and completing my degree in economics in Beirut and my law degree in London, that is when I decided to branch out and open my own maritime consultancy and service company, Tia Marine. So being a livestock vessel owner requires so much responsibility. You have to balance and take care of your crew, the environment, the vessel itself, your customers, the suppliers, and of course the cargo itself. It's not dry or liquid or wet. It's so precious. It's living, breathing, and must be dealt with care. The vessel is like a floating farm equipped with excellent ventilation, crew and stockmen to take care for the animals. 24/7 food and water, including freshwater generators, special hospital pens in case an animal needs extra care, and so on. So throughout the years, although, as I said before, coming from a privileged background, coming into a family business, even though that, there were several obstacles I had to go through. Being a young lady surrounded by mostly entitled and gender biased men was quite the challenge. I realized when I went down to the port and in most of our work meetings, I was almost the only woman in the group. It was a struggle being heard, being accepted, being valued just because I was a woman. In my early years, I assumed that maybe it was an Arab mentality and culture that women do not work in the shipping industry, But little did I know that gender bias was even in the most developed and supposedly forward-thinking cities like London. I came across WISTA and was so excited to see an association that empowers, promotes, connects, and connects women in shipping, whose aim is to close the gender gap. This was in 2000 and late 2017 when I discovered WISTA. I was so happy to have found like-minded women trying to make a difference. And so it became my goal to open WISTA in Lebanon. But boy, was it a struggle and what I had to face. So I applied to the Ministry of Interior, and I believe it was in 2018. And I finally got to open WISTA in 2019. It took a year and a half. Due to several things: government corruption and the resignation, we're talking about Lebanon here, an economic crisis that devalued the Lebanese lira by over 85%, extreme and unprecedented capital control by the banks, a garbage crisis, daily electricity cuts of 12 hours, of course, dealing with the pandemic, and above all, which I'm sure you've all seen and heard, a horrific and cataclysmic explosion in our major port, Beirut, that demolished the city, killing hundreds, injuring thousands, and displacing hundreds of thousands of people. Despite all that, I persevered, and I'm proud to say that I have opened WISTA Lebanon as its founder and president with 13 strong, united, and work-driven women. It's been a struggle for the women in Lebanon to be active in WISTA for the past 2 years, and I'll explain why. So Johanna, the obstacles, what are they that stand in my way? Plenty. I mean, the economic crisis in Lebanon itself is the biggest obstacle for women right now, not only women, everyone in Lebanon. The devaluation of the lira and no access to fresh dollars is the biggest drawback for everyone in Lebanon, let alone women. Inflation of prices of almost all commodities, people fleeing the country due to the horrible circumstances. However, there are even more challenges than that, and in specific for women in shipping, one of which is awareness. Not a lot of girls even consider the maritime field as a career path, and many women themselves within the field believe there's a ceiling that they can't surpass. So we need to work on changing that mentality, and we can do that, I believe, via awareness. Another obstacle is COVID-19. It could set back women a half a decade. All the progress we've seen pre-COVID, no matter how little, it could be wiped out due to many women thinking they need to leave their work. You see, most women work a double, if not triple shift. A day of work, then taking care of the children, and then housework. So the support that made that possible, including schools, childcare, leaving them at their grandparents' or family members' houses, has stopped or has become irregular due to COVID. So as a result, and I read this in McKinsey's reports, that something that was unthinkable a year and a half ago is happening now, and that 1 in 4 women are contemplating downgrading or shifting or even leaving their jobs. Third, women in Lebanon now don't have easy access to basic needs for their families. Many women can't find milk for their children, medicines. Many schools are closing down due to the crisis. Fourth, there are draconian laws that are discriminatory towards women in several fields. So that alone is an obstacle. There needs to be an astronomical change in legislation. Fifth, we still have discriminatory unequal pay to women doing the same job as men. So how to overcome these obstacles? I mean, the economic crisis in Lebanon itself is the biggest obstacle. So time will tell, and hopefully voting out corrupt officials, bringing in new government that actually cares for its people is a first step to overcoming the catastrophic situation in Lebanon. Voting is really important. It will also open the path for a new parliament to implement law that protects women and ensures their equal civil rights, and perhaps enforce quotas that can work to ensure gender equity. As for women in the shipping industry, in specific in Lebanon, I believe WISTA can do a lot to overcome these obstacles if funding is provided by offering mentoring programs to offer industry advice, eventually offering work opportunities to assist women to climb the career ladder, teach women who are hesitant to negotiate salaries and ask for a raise. Our aim is to target schools, universities, to raise awareness about the maritime industry and to show that girls and women can join this lucrative industry, that there is a place for them, to promote role models for women in the maritime and ocean communities that can inspire and attract younger generations to sea related activities, empowering women to acquire skills necessary to achieve leadership positions and break the glass ceiling. We will be providing scholarships and internships so they get a taste of what the shipping world is like. We'll be holding events, seminars, courses on gender equality, celebrating and discussing women in shipping. Also to educate girls and boys on how to unlearn this culture, gender bias, for example, like the choice of words. When a man is being assertive and ambitious, a woman is thought to be bossy. We need to correct that mentality. Okay, I don't want to take up too much time, but I will leave you all with what I said last year in the conference, and it still stands today. How can we expect industries and economies to evolve when we are excluding 50% of the most promising leaders? Women are severely underrepresented in an industry that controls 90% of world trade. At the current rate, it would take 100 years to reach gender parity in the shipping industry. So closing the gender gap would mean more diverse candidates, more creative ideas, improved businesses and larger economies of scale, economic gains, which means more jobs for everyone. And that's one of my goals for Lebanon and hopefully for the rest of the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Bissar. And as you said, a lot of obstacles. I want to ask you a follow-up question, actually. Where do you get your fuel, your energy to fight those obstacles? Because there are plenty of them.
In Lebanon, you are taught to be a survivor and to persevere. So I'm considered a war child, and you don't have a choice but to survive and to keep pushing. Because if you don't push and you don't have the energy, you die. So it's survival and the will. That's
Okay.
where it comes from.
Thank you, Bissar. And I also think back to the network and support that if you are more than just one fighting, you are stronger. So supporting
Exactly.
each other, really
Yes,
important.
that's why organizations like WISTA and any form of networking is so important, and hearing each other's stories and sharing ideas and networking, we can't underestimate the power of it.
Okay, I will move to Zoe. Could you please continue the discussion and tell your story? I find great interest in how you came to be director of FACT and director of Ocean Blue, and of course at the same time keeping a healthy family life.
Yeah. Well, it's not easy, but it is most certainly possible. I actually want to go back initially just to my childhood because I think it laid a foundation of who I am and where my success has come to. So my mother was a single mother of 4. She had no support whatsoever. My mum, uneducated but very entrepreneurial. She ran a coach company and everyone in that company was a man. So for a young child, I saw my mum create a business in which she was the leader of men. And I think that instilled something for me as a child and made me believe if my mum can do it, I can do it. And I think that's really where my passion was born. I'm now the mother of a daughter, so I really hope to inspire her and the future generations. My mum unfortunately lost her business. So we went from being quite comfortable family to having absolutely nothing. But again, it sort of showed to me that you can sort of fall back, step back, not be in a fantastic position, but rebuild, and with the right people around you, go back up again. I was the first person in my family to have a formal education and went to university. When I left university, I actually went into shipping recruitment, but I was very quickly moved into the commercial aspect of shipping. So I placed someone at a broking shop, and this guy turned around to my boss at the time, which was John Banaskovich at FIS, and said, look, get this girl while she's young. I think she'll make a good broker. So I go for the interview and I arrive there and I get the job. I quickly learn I am the only girl on the broking floor. It is very loud, it is very aggressive. I got told I had 3 weeks to learn how to broker derivatives, which are quite complex if you've never done them before, or I'm out, I don't have a job. I was given no client book. So I just decided to go around to each broker and say, look, are there any clients you don't do any business with? And I got them and made myself a book and managed to become a broker, which was, you know, it's been hard. I've had to work twice as hard, twice as smart. As a female broker, it's very important that you build relationships in order to get business. But as a woman, it's quite difficult because you don't want to let that relationship be perceived as anything other than a business perspective. And you're always sort of walking a tightrope to get the balance right, to be respected, but also be one of the boys. So that's something that really sort of in that industry, I really wanted to make changes, and I really wanted to see more women on the trading side and more women on the broking side. I just kind of felt a bit outnumbered, and it would be good to have some girls with me. So that fueled that. At 26 years old, I was pulled by an oil derivatives trading company to set up their sales business. I was made director at quite a young age. However, I did decide after some time to step out and become a mother and have some family time. And when I went back into the industry, I went back in on double my wage as head of a desk, and in a senior position. And I think it's quite important to let people know that it's okay to take a career gap, it's okay to take a pause, it's okay to reassess where you are and where you want to be in life, and go back, and don't let that knock your confidence. Because, you know, as I'm saying, I came back on double my salary and in a really senior position after having a few years out and starting a family. On return back to broking, I was the only mother working in the industry, which really blew my mind. And I wanted to, now I was in a position of power, I wanted to hire women onto my desk. Now this suddenly became a really difficult challenge. However, I did meet with some girls from Shell. Now they were too expensive and they weren't right for the role. However, we went for some drinks in London and we just said, isn't this nice that we can share stories, that we can empower one another? We should do this more often. So the next time around we did a dinner, and the next time around we did a bigger dinner, and then it became at International Petroleum Week. We did 2 breakfasts for 2 years. And this summer just gone, we've just done a big event, the Baltic sponsored, with a lot of industry people sponsor. And it was the first event back from lockdown. And it was amazing. All these women came together. We had drinks, we had canapes. I got Joe Malone to gift everyone a candle. And it was just so empowering and so motivating to just, like we've been talking here, to have these conversations, to have your network, to have the people to say, you can do this, go for that new job, go for that senior position. There was so much talks about this at the event, which was, you know, and women just saying, I want to do this for the industry and I want to do this for the industry. So that was super positive. That group's called Women Together. And it's a much more social side, I would say, than doing the conferences. But if anyone's interested, obviously, please, we can talk about it later. Okay, so sorry, I'm talking on a bit here, but when I formed this group, Women Together, and I really wanted to see more women in broking, I kind of felt that I needed to push this further. I wanted a better work-life balance as to working 12 hours at a screen. So I looked at my network and I looked at my passion. I want to change an industry and I want a better work-life balance for my family. So I thought, I've got a network in shipping. I'm good with people, and I have a broking where I'm a middleman, I can do deals. So I set up Ocean Blue Commodities Recruitment. We've recently rebranded to Fact, Freight and Commodity Talent. My last 3 hires have all been women. My next hire is going to be a woman, and I've also recently placed a lady who spent I can't say where she's going or what she's doing, but she's coming back to the industry after spending a number of years out. And I'm also working with another lady at the moment who has took some time out, and she wants to come back in. And I met her recent event, and she didn't feel she could get back in. And I said, don't be foolish. We're going to get you back in the industry. And again, being together, supporting one another is the main thing. So now with my women's group and my recruitment business, my life and career goal now is just to change this industry forever. We wanted to see it more diverse and more women, again, in senior roles. This is just something that I feel is just really imperative. Like 2 things to change this industry is to see more young girls coming in from more diverse backgrounds, to be inspired to come in, and then from the top, we need women who are in power of position to be like, hey, we need to increase the number of girls here in senior positions. We need to see more girls coming through. I'm working with 2 companies next year for next summer, 2 internships, and they are paid internships, which I said you have to pay so we can include people from backgrounds who would not be able to get these internships to work for free normally. And we need to really try and get some girls in here, because this is where we can make the change. So I also work with these internships, but anyway, I have stolen a lot of time here. But that's my background, that's where I've got to, and this is now what I'm working forward towards.
Thank you very much, Zoe. I think you also helped other women on their way to the top, and that's also really important, to look around and see where you could help others out. That's really great.
Yeah. And I do get a number of junior brokers or younger girl brokers who actually come and approach me and say, I've got an issue internally, I don't know what to do, I feel like quitting. And I'm like, no, you do not quit. This is what we do. It's 2021 now. We're not taking a step back anymore. Girls are not sitting in the second row. We're stepping forward and we're doing what's right. So yeah, I do love to help people on their journeys. And
that's great. Okay, now moving on to Fabiana, helping clients navigate the law and at the top of the WISTA community at the board. At this stage of your career, how do you think you have or are in process of making your mark?
Thank you, Johanna. I believe that now things change a bit. In the beginning, when I started, we have to be kind of validated by a man. We need to be someone's daughters or someone's husband or someone's business partner. That was my case. I don't come from a family in shipping, but I had a business partner that kind of validated me. What I feel is that the last 10 years, I would say, in Latin America, maybe more in Europe, but in Latin America, it was just about 10 years. Things changed a bit. So I was able to be myself without being validated by men. Of course, it was at the same time that I met WISTA, and so I brought WISTA to Brazil. So we started a network here, as Zoe has said, as Bissar have said. It's so important to have the support and to be together with other women. So what I saw is that I was in a position that I could say no. Because when we start, we kind of have to say yes for everything. We have to take all the opportunities that we have to be in every places and everything. And it's okay. It's the situation that you are when you start. But after a while, I saw that when I said no, it was stronger. So I started saying no, like I will not do this conference if it's an only male panel. I will not be part of this association if there's not 30% of women there. I will not make business with this company if they don't tell me that they have women on board, or at least that they plan to have women on board. So I believe that now people know what they they can expect of having me. It's like, so this is kind of my mark. People know that if we will have Fabiana, we will have this and this and this. You'll be in a diverse place. We'll have a woman on board, or at least you need to have some plan. Otherwise, she will not be there. So I think that this was kind of the mark that I'm building. And for sure, what I think is very important when we are in this position is to amplify other women, because sometimes I feel that women that are in leadership position, we are so overwhelmed that we kind of forgot that we have to do it. So every time that we are in the room, that we have another woman, we need to say their name, we need to amplify their thoughts, especially if they are young. We need to make sure that they have a seat at the table, because it's very likely that they can have no seat for young ladies in the table. So we need to do this. And when we start doing this, people follow you. So I think that we now can have this unique mark. We don't need to be like other persons or like men as it was when we start. Now we are having this opportunity to be ourselves. We are having this opportunity to have a voice and to make marks. So sometimes just make questions. For example, there is a company that rates lawyers, and they are from London actually, and they usually rate lawyers and some firms that were only male. So I just make the question: how can you rate as band 1 a firm that's only male? It does not seem that it complies with your own diverse program. So they change it. They change and they start making the questions for the firms: how many women do you have as partners? Because firms usually just said, oh, I have 50% of women, but when you go to partners, there was not. So it's not only have 50% of women, it has women and leadership positions as directors and as partners in case of firms. So after they start making these questions, firms is starting promoting women to partners, because they didn't want to be evaluated as bad in this ranking. So sometimes just make questions. So I think this is how I'm starting making this mark. There's someone that make questions, and that if I am in the table, you would know what we expect, then what's coming together with me. So I think it's basically that. And for sure, associations and network, as Sar has said, as Zoe has said, it's very important. We need to be together. It's not an only person job. It's really a social change, and it's also not only with women but also with men. It's another thing that I think it's very important, because there are many men that are very important and this change, and there are some women that are not in the position to make the change yet. So we are talking about diversity. We are talking about the whole society. It's not women's problem, it's a society problem. So close the gender gap is something that all the society should be involved. And thankfully, there are many men that are involved too.
Thank you, Fabiana. I kind of agree that we can't ask for change. We have to demand change. And I think you have done that by making your mark. I think that's great. That's driving the change. Okay, last but not least, Jaquelyn, please elaborate further to help us understand challenges that you met on the way to your top position as head of creative design at the Kongsberg Maritime. Did you succeed in turning challenges to achievements, do you think?
Well, I think yes. I have a kind of a similar inflection point as Amsha did. I had to write down your name because you don't have it on your thing. But I think, I had a similar inflection point. So I was working at sea for 13 years. So I graduated from the Merchant Marine Academy in the US, and then I started sailing as third officer. And then I was sailing third officer, and then I was sailing second officer, and I was working mainly on LNG regasification vessels and FSRUs. And I did 7 years there. And then I wasn't getting promoted anymore because they weren't promoting Americans, and I was also the only woman working there most of the time. They had one other woman captain who was from Belgium, but I wasn't getting promoted anymore, so I left to work somewhere else at a higher rank. And then I was working on a car carrier, and we had a large fire while I was in charge of the deck department as a chief officer. And at that point, I was really looking at my career going, I have the highest license you can get. I'm licensed captain. It's just waiting for someone to retire or die, and then I can have their role. And then what do I do then? I sail there for 30, 40 years. You know, what kind of career is this for me going forward to be able to make anything better? It's just a job at that point. And looking at, you know, my career and where I was, and, you know, impending doom of possible accidents happening in the future, I was really looking at, why is the equipment on the ship made the way that it is? A lot of it is not made for the people who use it. It's made to have a list of features. And at that point, I went back to school and I did an executive MBA, which I was lucky enough to get on scholarship. And I graduated from there with honors. And then I was looking at what cool in maritime is happening out there that I could be involved in. And I was living in the States at the time. And I saw in Norway, there's this autonomous ship. That could be fun. That could be really interesting to see how that's being made and for who it's being made for, because obviously there are still people in the loop, even if the ship is running autonomously, there's shore control and those kind of things. And how are they designing that, and who's designing it? So I saw a job posting on LinkedIn late in the evening at Kongsberg for automation advisor. And I didn't meet most of the bullet points. I think they had like 50 bullet points, and they wanted electrical engineers, and they wanted, you know, software developers for this role. And I said, well, I'm none of those, but I'm a ship captain, and I'm really interested in what's happening with technology over there. So I got called for an interview like 12 hours later online. And then I got called to come to their office the next week in Norway from Boston. And then I got my job offer the next day after the interview. I hadn't even gotten home. And so then I told my husband, who was on a project in Dubai at the time, I'm going to go to Norway and we're going to try this for a year. And if I like it, we'll stay. And if I don't like it, I can always go back and get another ship. It's not a big deal to go back. Easy. And so this is our third year in Norway. It's my third role at Kongsberg. So my first role was an automation advisor, where I was advising on the automation system for the new developments and how those controls would work with a human operator. And I was advising also on the Yara Birkeland project, so the autonomous ship, and also the ASCO autonomous ferries. And then we had announced that on my first day that we bought Rolls-Royce Marine. And so then I transitioned to a new role as a technical manager for the harmonization of products between Rolls-Royce's products and our product portfolio, to really see how that portfolio will fit together from a user perspective and HMI side. And I'm not really a designer, but I have a great interest in making things for humans who use them. Because in maritime, we have this human element blame so often. What's the cause of the accident? 85% of the time, human error. And when I look at human error, I look at it as a design error. Would they have made that mistake if we made the technology that they use in a different way? How can we make it clearer? How can we avoid those kind of accidents in the future? How can we really make systems to be used? And I think, you know, being a woman in maritime, we have kind of a unique perspective on how can we make it better for everyone who's going to use it. Not just one type of user from one type of school, not just men who will work on the ship for months at a time, because they miss their families also. It's not unique to women to be excluded from the industry because they don't want to work in those conditions. How can we make the conditions better in the future, especially when we're talking about new technology and introducing it, so that you can perceivably work from home and work in maritime at sea and in maritime operations, doing remote control or port operations or VTS operations, where we also have a lack of women in the industry. How can we make it more appealing by making technology that's both sustainable and friendly in a human way, that we're really designing the future of their work? And I think that that's maybe the most interesting thing about my more recent role as the head of creative design. Yeah, that's my short story, I guess.
Yes. Where are you today of making your mark, do you think?
But I think right now it's been an interesting road because we're working with a lot of external forums. On the women empowerment side, I'm on the board for WISTA Norway. Also, I do a lot of work with Ali Siendo, who founded Women Offshore. We graduated together from the Merchant Marine Academy, and the Merchant Marine Academy is in the news, not for good reasons lately, for sexual harassment in the industry and with the Maritime Administration in the US. And I don't think that it's a unique experience for that school. And I really think it's so disappointing that they're canceling SEER, because that's when you got your practical experience in the industry. And the harassment will still happen after you graduate and you go to sea. So preventing it for the 3 years that they're in school, because you don't sail your first year. So your second year in university, you go to sea for 4 months, and then your third year in university, you go to sea for 8 months, and you get practical experience. And to take that away from women who need that experience in the industry and need that experience to go into interviews and say, I was there as a trainee, I saw these things, I learned these things, this is how I handled that situation, I have practical work experience when you're going into your first interviews, is so crucial to being able to be part of the industry. Because it's so hard to get that first experience, especially if you didn't get any time as a trainee or apprentice. So I don't know, I think it's an endemic problem in the industry where we really need to have more inclusion of men in these discussions. We need to have men that are empowered to step in when they see something bad happening, and to shut other men down who say bad things to women or treat someone badly and treat other men badly. They have to be trained to step up in those situations and really make space for people and advocate for others at sea. And I think that that's not happening as much as it should be in the industry, because they think, oh, it's a woman's problem, instead of it's a human problem and we need to treat each other better.
I believe you're right, Jacqueline. It is a human problem, and I'm glad you're bringing that up. Just a break. You can cut this out, Sanja, but I wanted to make sure, I mean, we have reached 12 o'clock and over that. Are you able to summarize this up? I have a question that I won't point you out, but you could add some advices to other women in our industry. But do you have the time, or should we write really fast? Close it up. Just speak up if you need to go somewhere.
I have a meeting in a half hour.
Okay, so. Okay, great. But then I will take a last question to try to summarize today's discussion. Last, I would really like to give especially the women that are listening to this discussion a really good takeaway from your experiences. What are your best advices for succeeding as a woman in a male-dominated industry? Feel free to jump in with your best advices.
I guess I'll start. I think that it's really important that they find the men who can support them in the industry and advocate on their behalf. There are men who want women included in this industry. We have now male members of WISTA Norway, and they are our biggest asset in actually creating change.
That's right.
And it's okay, Jacqueline. I'd just like to say that for me, I think for women in the industry, is to be brave, very brave, to speak your truth. As Fabiana said, she's learned to say no. And that's so important, to be confident. And I really feel that's a real key success for your career. As Jacqueline said, you know, she applied for a job that she was kind of felt underqualified for, not like she was hitting the tick list. She went for it and she got the job. And so many women do not do this. Men do it all the time. They apply for stuff they're not qualified for. Women don't. They haven't got the confidence. Confidence. Strive for the senior roles, because that's where we can facilitate the change. You do have to be thick-skinned in this industry, as it is still male-dominated, and we still have a massive mountain to climb. And again, like Jacqueline's saying, is, you know, never underestimate the power of your relationships and your network. My biggest mentors in this industry, the ones who've really taken me up each level by level, have been men. And I've always had the support of fantastic women around me, and that is growing all the time, like you in today. So that's just the other thing, the power of your relationships and your network, and just be super confident.
Thank you, Zoe.
Johanna. So I think it's very important that young women understand at the outset, you are in control of your own story or your own career. Whilst you may leverage off the networks that you build, you are always going to be at the helm of your own ship. Networks are super important. At WISTA South Africa, we have a lot of men as well that join us for our monthly meetings. And it's not generally that all men are not supportive. So I think you've got to find the right men, you've got to find the right women, because sometimes you have women that don't lift other women. And that's the simple truth. You need to stay your course, not be afraid of failure. Failure is inevitable. It's an inevitable part of our success, but we need to learn from our failures so that we keep on looking up and moving forward. I mean, it's a simple statement to look up and to move forward, but it really resonates. It's the simple things that help you get out of a difficult spot. And I think for me, the most important thing is that you do not shy away from your gender. You need to celebrate and not apologize for being a woman. Not apologize that you can't have a meeting at 6 p.m. because you've got to pick up the kids or you've got to do homework. There's no embarrassment in that. You do not apologize for the feminine leadership qualities that you bring. Women are generally inclusive. We collaborate more. We bring a sense of warmth to the table. We're not cold and calculating all of the time. We can be all of those things, and yet you can still remain a strategic, determined leader. So I think that for me is really important. There's no embarrassment in being a woman. You can bring the best things to the table, and we must celebrate it.
That's really good, Amsha. I think the best is to be yourself, then you can bring out your best qualities and contribute with that. I think that's really great.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Thank you. Fabiana or Carolina, do you want to add
Yeah,
something?
yes.
Some advices?
Yeah, please. Yes, go, Caroline. Well, I think, Johanna, that it's about, we really need to stay connected to our truth. So it's very important that for people, for the youngers that are listening to that, stay connected to yourself. Be very kind to your truth, and do not negotiate your values. It's true that we need to be extra prepared. It's not fair, I know, but it's the reality. We need to be extra prepared. And but when we are extra prepared and when we are connected to other truths, demand, ask for support, ask other women and ask other men, please, can you sponsor me? Can you support me on this meeting? Because you need it. Do not go to a meeting thinking that people will be fair with you. If they are, good, but be prepared for they not be. So ask for people to support you. Ask for people to support your souls. Before a meeting, go to a chat with someone and say, look, I'm thinking about this and this and this. Can you support me in the meeting? Ask for that. We really need to ask. And if you have a no, oh, no, I cannot support, good. Now you know what's going on and this person will not support you. So it's a win-win. I really think that we need to be that strategic in the position that we are, because there is, as Bissar have said, there is a war over there, and we are kind of survivors. And especially after this COVID, that we know that gender equality, it lost lots of things. So we will need to work harder, and we own it for the future generations. So we need to be tough. So let's support each other, let's ask for support, and let's be extra prepared. Again, it's not, I know it's not fair, but that's the way it is.
Yeah, you're right, Fabiana. Carolina?
Yes. Yes, the advice that I would like to give to the young women entering in the maritime industry is that I believe that to have success in this sector, the women in general have to develop and strive to reach their professional career with a determined and persistent mindset. Italian women mustn't be discouraged and intimidated by the dominating male shipping sector. If we want to achieve gender equity in the maritime industry, we, as Italian women and women in general, need to break the mold. This is my goal, creating awareness regarding the necessity to modify the Italian labor contracts, where the gender equity gap is still far too big. Unfortunately, there still exists an Italian male culture where women are not supposed to earn more than men in all sectors. In conclusion, my personal mark is to bridge the gap between genders in order that every woman can reach their full potential in their careers as their male counterparts.
Thank you very much for our discussion today, ladies. The time went really fast, but our discussion was full of knowledge and wisdom, and I think the attendees of the Maritime SheEO event really got some good takeaways from you. At least I did. Thank you very much for today.